Hey guys, welcome to the Yeti Den. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about one of my favorite tactical strategy games, particularly on the Nintendo Switch, but it's also pretty much everywhere, and that is the Banner Saga. So when I first got my Switch, it was in 2019, and I previously really only played the PlayStation 4 and some PS3 games. There was a pretty big gap that I missed out on, and so when I got the Switch, I wanted to fill in some of those gaps that I missed, particularly strategy games. With the PlayStation systems that I had previously, I didn't really tap into all of the amazing turn-based games that I could. The Switch felt like that would be perfect for it. So I started searching strategy games and would see games like Civilization come up, Divinity, turn-based RPGs, and the one that caught my eye pretty much immediately was the Banner Saga, and that's because of the art style. I saw this isometric grid system, but with a hand-drawn, almost Tolkien-esque art style. And that really captured my imagination, and it made me really curious to check out what this game was. So I started watching reviews of it. I think I watched Splattercat play it, and I immediately dove into trying to find it. And so I found it on Amazon physically. So for physical collectors, I don't know if this is the version that you'd want because it is internet download and micro SD card required. At the time, I wasn't sure if I was a physical collector or not, but I knew I was going to Spain, and I knew this was the best deal to get all three games on, and I didn't want to buy them a la carte on the Switch digital. So I downloaded it, installed it, put it on my Switch, and for my trip to Spain, I played it on the train, I played it at night in the hotel room, and I think I got through the first game and a half on the system. So I believe the first game came out in 2014, I think the second one came out in 2016, and the third one came around 2018, and they fundraised it through Kickstarter. And so after I beat the whole series, I decided to get another copy on the PS4. This was more just because, I don't know, I really like the game, and when I do like a game, I try to support it in as many ways as I can. And since I buy stuff on sale often, I figure I might as well double dip and flesh out the collection and hopefully help the developers in the process. So this one includes Banner Sagas 1, 2, and 3, best of soundtrack, mini art book, collectible poster, and Horn of like buy-in in-game items. So inside you can see the soundtrack, and these are some of the items that it came with. I have here the art book, which is cool. Really glad they include this. And a collectible poster. So this has a bunch of the characters on here, including some of my favorites, like, I'm trying to read it backwards here, Bolursk, Rook, Oddleaf, some great characters. So you can see that this is a very distinct art style, and I wish more indie games did this, but I know it's really difficult, and that's probably why they don't. So the art style is really unique. They reference three different influences. So the Sleeping Beauty backgrounds by, I believe, Eyvind Earl, the Lord of the Rings animated series by Ralph Bakshi, and Dragon's Lair and Space Ace by Don Bluth. So I don't know if those are specifically the movies that they are referencing. I can't remember, but I know those were the three key people. And looking through those artists' work, I have a feeling that these were the influences they were referencing, especially the Sleeping Beauty and the Lord of the Rings. And a little bit about The Lord of the Rings. That animated series came out about in the 70s and was directed by Ralph Bakshi, and I really recommend checking them out if you like hand-drawn art. I think there's something really special about that series, and I don't think it gets enough love. And so what I like about Banner Saga is it feels, in a way, like a continuation of that spirit of hand-drawn medieval mythological art. I think with the Sleeping Beauty juxtaposition, it gives it a refinement and like a classiness. But then another exciting part about this game is the cutscenes. I think those are really directed in a cinematic way. And if I was someone who held the IP for Lord of the Rings, I would be approaching Stoic, the developers of this game, because they have a lot of experience in RPGs. I believe some of them are BioWare alumni, and I think that it shines through in the gameplay and the storytelling, and I would love a Middle-earth spin-off of Banner Saga. However, I wouldn't blame these developers if they decided to stay inside of their own unique IP because they created something really special here. Last year, I found this art book on Stoic's website, and I purchased this because I really appreciate the art. There's also a book, I believe, and so I would love to collect the records. They have vinyl record releases of the 3 games, and it's composed by Austin Wintory. And I believe Austin has an influence on the art style of the album covers, and they have a really cool, unique art style. And so I know he approaches the original soundtracks as an album release and puts a lot of hard work into it. So I would love to collect those over time. But his music in this game is really important. And I know at one point the developers weren't sure if the budget would allow them to hire someone of Austin's caliber, but somehow it lined up and he was able to do the project. And I'll try and pay close attention anytime he references Banner Saga. But whenever he does, he talks about it quite fondly. And I think it's one of the underrated games on his list of games he's worked on. But as a fan, I can really appreciate the style that he brought to it, because it reminds me of games like Morrowind and soundtracks like The Lord of the Rings, where there's an automatic nostalgic attachment to the game when you hear it. And I think there's a really cool mythological sadness to the music, where you feel like this music is ancient, and it feels like the production really leans into the game style, and it almost juxtaposes the beautiful art in that the music is like a funeral dirge. And so there's a slow trottingness to the music, which ties in really nicely with the caravan feeling. And whenever I think of the caravan, I think of songs like Planet Caravan by Black Sabbath and No Quarter by Led Zeppelin. They are these medieval influenced kind of Norse traveler songs, and I think Austin did a really good job of creating this sadness in the music that is nostalgic and inviting, but very dark and tinged with a sense of mourning. And so the way the music fuses with the gameplay is really exciting, and the caravan mechanic is one of my favorites because it allows you to make decisions that have consequences in battle. So while you're traveling with your caravan, there's survival mechanics that basically you need to manage some resources between rest places. And sometimes the rest places aren't true rest places, they're major campaign battles. So you always want to make sure when you're leaving a campground that you have enough resources and enough, I guess it would be called morale, to get through to the next camp. And you might not know how long it'll take you to get there. So managing those resources feels fun. I don't think it feels like a burden. And what happens is there's challenges that come along where someone in your caravan might be complaining that there's too many people, or there's not enough food, or that they want to go explore, or they want to go attack someone. There might be bandits on the road, and you have to make really tough calls. And I know the game is pretty brutal in punishing you for pretty much any decision you're going to make, which could frustrate some players, but for me it felt very realistic and important when I was making decisions, because I knew if I was gonna die on this hill, I wanted it to be something that I truly believed was a good decision. Now, I don't think I made a lot of good decisions because I don't think I got a great ending. So I would love to play through it again and try and pay a little bit more attention to the decisions that I'm making, how they're stacking up, how I'm leveling up my characters, because I kind of just focused on doing my best at the time. I didn't really have much of an aerial view of the game. And after playing through it a little bit on the PS4 now, I think I get a much better understanding of how to level up the characters, and hopefully that will increase my odds of getting better endings. So the value of this game, I think, is totally there, and I think it's an underrated RPG that I would highly recommend. So please check out the Banner Saga and let me know what your favorite tactical RPG is. Thanks for watching. This is the Yeti Den, and don't forget to like and subscribe.